welcome to part 2 of my Attack on Titan Chapter 104 review. And since some of you guys have said that you miss it, this video is going to contain lots and lots of spoilers, so if you haven't read the manga, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. So if you haven't seen part 1 and you're wondering why I'm doing it this way, it's because the entire final quarter of my audio for my review was somehow corrupted and entirely lost. Which was fucking bullshit, but that's okay. I didn't want to make you guys wait any longer, so I decided to go ahead and release what I had and do the rest in a second video, which is the video I'm doing now. So, here's what I'm gonna do. Since I didn't get through the whole chapter in my last video, I'm gonna go ahead and start right where we left off. I'm gonna finish my read through and my final thoughts on the chapter, but instead of doing my usual shorter summary and analysis, I'm gonna go ahead and dive straight into the discussion. So, let's get started. When we left off in the last video, Galliard was about to be eaten by Eren. Gabby and Falco are calling out for Reiner to save his life, and finally Reiner transforms and we get this. Now when I first saw this, my first inclination was that this is Reiner partially transformed. Perhaps everything was just going so fast he didn't get a chance to fully form, but it really looks like his armor just kind of stopped mid-transformation. At least that's what those little spikes coming off of him look like to me. Some people have been speculating that this could be another form of the Armored Titan, but seeing as Reiner seems to be lacking armor almost completely, I think the former is probably much more likely. And remember what Falco was saying in the last chapter about Reiner's will to live. It could just be that his will is so low that his armor didn't form all the way. I think that's a pretty reasonable explanation. Alright, so let's get through these last few pages so we can move on to the discussion. So Eren, as always, he doesn't waste any time. He throws out a punch, Reiner reaches out, he hits Reiner right in the face, shatters his jaw, sends him flying back, but Reiner, he manages to get a hold of Porco and saves him from getting eaten by Eren. Mikasa jumps on Eren as he's coming out of his Titan, and he looks over and says, "I think we're done here. He's out of strength. Reiner won't be able to kill us right now." So this is interesting because it differs from the original fan translation that we saw before the official translation came out, where Eren says, "It looks like we can't kill him yet." This is really important, I think, because it reveals a lot about Eren's motivations. The first translation made it sound like the only reason Eren didn't try to fight Reiner was because he was still too strong to kill. But in the official translation, the opposite is true. He decides not to fight Reiner simply because it's not necessary. Reiner is too weak to do anything to them, so they don't have to defend themselves from him. But it also shows that Eren doesn't want to kill him. In the state that both Reiner and Porco are in right now, Eren could probably easily eat them both if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He doesn't even try. And what this says to me is that even though Eren did what he did, and even though my prediction chapters ago that Eren and Reiner would become allies didn't happen yet, I do think my general analysis was pretty much correct. I really believe that Reiner and Eren both truly still care about each other on some level. Remember, Eren at one point thought of Reiner as his big brother. I think that deep down he still looks up to him with the same kind of admiration and respect. And the conversation that Eren has with Reiner before all of this happens shows this. Despite being cold and direct, Eren shows no malice towards Reiner, like the Eren we knew a few years ago, who promised Reiner that he would make sure he died in the most painful way possible. Before Eren attacks the festival, Reiner reminds him of this, and Eren tells him to forget that he said that, again showing that Eren is not the same person he was 4 years ago. He speaks to Reiner with respect rather than hatred, and attempts to understand Reiner's actions and confirm the conclusions of his own beliefs. He sees now that Reiner is not necessarily the bad guy, and he himself is not necessarily the good guy. His world is not so black and white anymore. He's become much more pragmatic than he used to be. And we all know how painful it was for Eren to find out that someone he thought of as a brother was actually his sworn enemy. I have no doubt that those feelings were reopened during his reunion with Reiner a few chapters ago, but it seems to me that perhaps this also gave Eren some sense of closure, finally being able to confront Reiner and hear the truth from his own lips, and hear his regret. I think that Eren at once takes solace in finding out that Reiner is a genuinely good person who is able to admit to his mistakes and feel incredible amounts of remorse, but also agonizing to know that they are two friends on separate sides of the same coin. Anyway, back to the chapter. After Eren flies away, Reiner, with no strength left, collapses into the rubble, and I can't help but wonder what Reiner is going to do after all of this is over. I can see this attack awakening something in Reiner and giving him back his will to survive and drive to move forward. I can see Reiner becoming pretty pissed off after all this happened, and being motivated to move against Paradis in order to protect the people he cared about that were still left, especially if his mom didn't make it out alive, because we still don't know if she survived yet. I think that would probably be the most devastating thing that could happen to Reiner right now. What? You think things can't get any worse? What do you mean? This is Attack on Titan. Of course they can. So Gabby and Falco are looking at the window, watching all of this, and the guard that's with them says, they are retreating. Then Gabby says, does that mean we're safe? They're running away? Then she gets all pissed off and grabs the rifle. Falco starts running after her. She's like, I'm going after them, after Eren Yeager, and I'm going to make them eat my uncle's lead. They're not getting away. I promise you, I'm going to kill them. Then at the final page, we see the blimp moving through the buildings. Jean says, protect the airship from any enemies below. Let them have any bullets you got left. And then the footnote says, will they be shot down or will they get away? Will the Survey Corps make it out alive? Probably most of them. But they're not getting away without some kind of sacrifice. So, holy crap, man, how does this series just keep getting better and better? I don't know how I'm gonna handle this when it's finally animated. Like, I think I might have a seizure just from all the awesomeness. This chapter was fucking amazing. Everything about it was great. Even the really sad parts were really well done. And I just have to say, I feel so bad for Porco in this chapter. I mean, he fucked up so fucking hard. And the way Isayama drew his face on the Titan and his actual face underneath the Titan is like I genuinely feel really, really bad for this guy. Like, he fucked up so bad. But, I mean, getting the Warhammer eaten by the devils of Paradis, he ain't never gonna live that down. Okay, so now it's time for the review and discussion section of this video. Let's start with Eren. So, did Eren actually inherit the Warhammer Titan? I mean, it looks pretty cut and dry. All he needs is her spinal fluid, right? So I think it's safe to say he managed to get some of that while drinking all of her juices. Ugh. But some people have also been saying that Porco, poor Porco, may have actually inherited instead by swallowing her at the last moment, and then all that stuff that came out was just Porco's head matter or whatever. And while I didn't think about this at first, this is actually a good observation, because like I said, all Eren needs is her spinal fluid to inherit the Warhammer Titan. And while I don't think Galliard managed to swallow the Tiber sister before she got crushed in the crystal, I do think that there's a chance that Galliard may have gotten some of her spinal fluid in his mouth as well. So if that's the case, if both Eren and Porco got some of the Tiber sisters' Titan juice, God, I just can't. Then who would inherit the Warhammer Titan, Eren or Galliard? Since we have never seen or heard this kind of scenario be mentioned before, it's hard to really say. We still don't know what all the rules are for the Titans and how exactly they are inherited. So could it mean both of them inherited it? Or neither? Would it go to the person who drank the most spinal fluid? Or could there be another possibility? It has suggested in earlier chapters that the Titans themselves have some kind of immortal consciousness, and that they have motivations and desires of their own. For example, the Attack Titan wants to keep fighting and moving forward, while the Founding Titan is a complete pacifist and wants to maintain peace at all costs. So is there a chance that the Titan itself could choose between its hosts, given the opportunity? Thinking about this now really makes me wonder what kind of desires and motivations might be driving the other Titans. One thing to note is that when Eren ingests the Warhammer, we see a glimpse of his face, and he appears to have the expression of stark realization. This is still pretty ambiguous, but when I first read this, I thought it must be because it was the moment he inherited the Titan. Perhaps he was getting a glimpse of some memories, or he could feel himself absorb the Titan's power. But it could also be the realization that he may not have succeeded in inheriting the Warhammer Titan at all. Like I said before, there's a chance neither one of them inherited it, and we've seen before that there can be dire consequences when Titans aren't created properly. Rod Rice is a good example of this. One can only assume that inheriting the power of a Titan shifter is probably a lot more complicated than even making pure Titans. Maybe instead of actually gaining the Warhammer ability, Porco and or Eren might suffer some kind of side effects from not ingesting all of the spinal fluid in one go, as seems to be the goal when transferring one Titan shifter to another. And remember, we still have that bit about a child inheriting a Titan if it is lost in battle without anyone to transfer the power to. If the Warhammer Titan was transferred improperly and neither one got the power, that would open the door to this happening. Although I'm still not exactly sure what significance that would have for the story. It could of course simply be a plot device to make it so the Titans can't be eradicated simply by killing them. But back to Eren. If Eren did inherit the Warhammer Titan, what does that mean for the future of the story? Well, first of all, there's been theories about Eren or someone else eating all of the Titan shifters in order to recreate the original Ymir for some time. And from what we've seen now, it looks like that might actually be what Eren's goal is. But the question is, what would actually happen if Eren ate all the Titans? Would that really bring back Ymir, the original Ymir who created the Titans in the first place? If so, what would she do? Will they use the power to try and get rid of the Titans? Or maybe even reset time? Like the whole time loop theory? So that none of this ever happens to begin with? There are so many possibilities. But for now, let's move on to Armin. We finally got to see his colossal Titan form. And despite making light of it, I'm totally down with Isayama showing the grim reality of what these characters are having to do. He's forcing us to accept the fact that these characters that we love have committed mass murder. He's not shying away from the realities of war. This isn't fun. This is real shit. And I, for one, felt a little bit nauseated more than once during this chapter. But that's okay. Part of the reason I love stories like this is because they are so emotionally and intellectually challenging. These are the kinds of stories that make people think, instead of just entertaining or distracting us. But that's not the only thing I want to talk about in this scene. Armin's dialogue is really interesting here. When Hanji asks Armin if he's been possessed by Erwin's ghost, he replies by saying, "I wish I had been, if it meant giving us strength. But with things as they are now, if we can't retrieve everyone, and Eren, we don't have a future." What exactly does Armin mean by everyone? Certainly they are going to lose some soldiers in this battle, so he must be talking about someone specific, aside from Eren. Immediately the first thing I thought of while reading this scene was that they've come here to retrieve someone. And who else could it be but Zeke? We already know Zeke's been up to something, we're just not sure what yet, and I for one am not convinced at all that he's dead. Maybe that was the whole point of this attack in the first place, so that Eren and the Survey Corps could have the opportunity to bring Zeke back with them to Paradis. I talked a lot about Zeke in a discussion video I made last chapter, so I'm not going to go really deep into it here. You can go check that out if you want a more in-depth analysis of Zeke over the past several chapters. But having Zeke come back with them to Paradis and risking all of this to accomplish that makes a lot more sense. Because as we know, Zeke is one of the Marley's strongest Titans, and he also has royal blood. This would be a huge blow to Marley. Not only that, but it would theoretically enable Eren to use the coordinate from the safety of Paradis Island. So when Armin talks about them having a future, I can't help but wonder exactly what kind of future they are envisioning for themselves. What exactly are they planning on doing? And whose future are they talking about? Are they really just trying to protect Paradis alone? Or do they have something much bigger in mind? I'm pretty sure Isayama does, so I have to assume the latter. Remember, we've still got this stuff about the paths and time-traveling memories that has to come into play again somehow. I can definitely see Armin coming up with some kind of solution that nobody else would expect or think of, which might have something to do with these paths. If anyone could figure something out, it's him, or maybe even Zeke. It would be a lot of fun to see Zeke and Armin put their big brains together and come up with some kind of plan that maybe didn't involve killing everyone else to save the Eldians. Speaking of which, let's switch gears to the Zeppelin and the guy driving it. We see this guy in a Marleyan uniform driving the airship with Hanji and Armin on board. This definitely says to me that Paradis has managed to make some allies. And the implications of this are potentially huge. What this means is that we, as an audience, have been subjected to yet another outright lie about the world of Attack on Titan, simply because this is what the people of Marley believe. The truth appears to be that maybe not everyone hates the Eldians as much as Marley makes it seem like. Perhaps there are other people and nations out there who know the truth, the real truth about the Titans. Or that just hate Marley so much that they're willing to side with the people much of the world considers devils to stop them. Which I think would make a lot of sense. I mean, Marley's pretty messed up. Ever since we've been introduced to them, the Marley have been shown to be the equivalent of an authoritarian militaristic regime in the world of Attack on Titan, and it shared obvious similarities to, say, Nazi Germany. They seek to expand their territory and their military exponentially with little regard for anyone else, and have used the Titans for at least 100 years in order to do so, letting loose the horrors of the Titans on the world. So I'm definitely not surprised that not everyone out there is friendly with Marley, or wants to follow them as the world's superpower. In fact, there could be many nations and people out there who want the Marley to collapse, and would actively aid in doing so, that is, if Paradis managed to gain their trust enough to let them run away with the Coordinate and Zeke. This chapter really has opened up a whole new world of possibilities. Here we thought the story was coming to its conclusion, but now it suddenly feels like there might be a lot more left to do, which I am perfectly okay with, as long as it's what Isayama wants to do. Please don't Death Note Arc 3 that shit. I mean, I've got nothing against Nier personally, but why add something when it's not needed? Anyway, a couple more things before I wrap this up. I already talked about Reiner earlier, so I won't get back into that now, but I am a bit worried about Pike. It's making it sound like she might not survive this, which would really suck, because I really like Pike, and I want to see more of her. But that would give us that thing about a Titan shifter being born to a child after being lost, when no one inherits it. So maybe that's going to come into play with her. I really hope she heals back up and gets back out there though. Maybe she'll pull some kind of Deus Ex Machina and save someone at the last minute. Another thing is Gabby. I feel like we've been waiting for her to shoot somebody ever since she first came across that rifle, screaming about how she's gonna kill Eren Yeager! So what's gonna end up happening with her? I really don't think she's going to accomplish anything with that rifle, unless she manages to get a good shot at one of the Survey Corps members that aren't a Titan. A lot of people have been talking about the possibility that Gabby might end up killing one of our main characters, as Isayama hinted in a recent interview that one of our main cast might actually die before this battle's over. But who's it gonna be? Could it be Jean? He has been getting a lot of focus these past few chapters, but that could just be because he's the squad leader. What about Levi? He's probably the oldest member of the Survey Corps left, and even though he's Levi, there's always a chance that his age could slow him down, or his refusal to use firearms and only use swords might trip him up somehow. But man, I would be really disappointed if that was all we got to see of Levi after the time skip. It just wouldn't be a fitting ending for the legend. But then again, as we know from Marco, not everybody goes out in a blaze of glory. I suppose Sasha or Connie could die, but I personally wouldn't feel too much of an impact from either of their deaths. Don't get me wrong, I like Sasha and Connie, but I'm not as attached to them as I am the rest of the main cast. I definitely can't see Mikasa or Armin dying, and Flock doesn't count. So yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure if anybody dies, it's probably gonna be Jean. I really hope he doesn't though. Alright, so here's a few questions for you guys. Who do you think inherited the Warhammer Titan? Do you think Eren got it for sure, or could Porco have inherited it? And what do you think would happen if they both ingested the spinal fluid? Could they both have inherited the Warhammer Titan? Or perhaps neither one? Or maybe something else unexpected is gonna happen? Also, what do you think of Reiner's fresh new look? Is he just too weak to form fully, or could this be something new? And what do you think he's going to do after all of this is said and done? Now we all know Zeke is still alive. So what do you think he's doing right now, while nobody's watching? Could he be heading for that blimp to hitch a ride back to Paradis? And last but not least, who do you think is going to die before this battle is over? There's no way the Survey Corps are going to get out of here without sacrificing something. Something more than just a few nameless rookies. Alright guys, so that was my Attack on Titan Chapter 104 review and discussion. I feel like I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about in this video, so I think I might try something new next week. I'm not going to say it here, so don't forget to come back next week to see what it is. Let me know if you think I missed anything, and be sure to tell me your thoughts on this chapter in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching guys, and make sure to come back soon for more awesome Attack on Titan content. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to like, share, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and check out my Patreon if you want to help support this channel. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.